Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to the Teachers Lounge, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast with rotating members. And tonight, I'm joined by Mike Rance over there. Let me unmute him first. Hold on.
Please do.
Mike Rance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you can hear me now.
And making his triumphant return to the lounge because I forced him to because he stayed up too late last week, Kraken Josh Patton himself. How's it going, buddy?
Good morning.
It's definitely the evening, but okay.
Oh.
Anyway, we're so glad to have you all here tonight. Thank you guys so much. As always, if you feel like supporting us in what we're doing, feel free to click that join button down below. It is a link also in the description for it. You can do that. You get access to the chat, which is unlocked tonight for a reason we'll go over in just a second, but normally it is locked. My volume is high. Okay. Let me turn down. Hopefully that's a little bit better.
Am I screaming?
No, I'm not supposed to be that loud. My mic is distorting.
I'm screaming.
I'll check. Yeah, hopefully that's a little bit better. Thank you guys for giving me that check. But the hope, you get access to all these kind of things, like being a member of the chat, getting access to emotes and everything else. And that is a big help to us. Josh looks a lot different because he has a beard. Doesn't have a beard anymore. The other big thing is just to let you guys know in the chat, if you haven't already seen, that the Italian group has translated their deck building database and player ID database to be in English as well. That is a new amazing resource. You can go ahead and go down below. There's a link to take you to that page so you can get registered. Perfect. Thank you guys very, very much. And then we do have a sponsor for tonight's episode. We are sponsored tonight by www.ccgprime.com. So you can go to get all kinds of singles and other stuff for not only Force of Will, but other games too. But they are sponsoring a giveaway for tonight. So tonight we'll ask the question a little bit later that you can answer to get your entry in for the random drawing. But we are giving away a playset of pre-release promo Shadow Source Masters, a pre-release kit Draft Ruler, and a pre-release kit playmat. Ta-da! So stay tuned to later in the video to find out how you can be entered into the drawing for that. Thank you so much, CCG Prime, for sponsoring tonight's episode of Ruler School. Teachers Lounge. So, Marvel Rares. This past weekend was pre-release. In the United States, pre-release kits are loose packs as opposed to other countries where they are frequently sealed boxes. But however, 2 boxes typically per box. And it's been primarily like juiced is what we all tend to say it is for pre-release kits. But we've now kind of seen both sides of like sealed boxes and pre-release kits in English being cracked. So we have a little bit more information about the Marvel Rares. So we finally have them in our hand. And so want to kind of talk to you guys, your thoughts about the idea of what Marvel Rares, like what we've seen from Marvel Rares, what we have, and then kind of break it out from there in terms of like Marvel Rares as a card type, card design, the idea of introducing a new rarity, the pack ratios, and kind of what this might mean both for like the market price, which is Josh's specialty, as well as like set card design that we might see moving forward, because we already know that Marvel Rares are coming back in next cluster, Saga cluster. So with that, for those of you who are not aware, at this point in time, it's been known that a box has 5 Marvels per box. It's 1 foil and 4 full art. We've talked about this pull ratio, the hopes of this pull ratio many, many times over the past few lounges. And I, for one, am completely blown away by the fact that it's 5. I don't know. What about you guys?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised by it. I thought it was going to be something like... I thought originally 3 was going to be the number, because it just seems like if you're introducing a new rarity, kind of having it be like kind of a difference between them and other rarities. It made me think of like the way that rulers used to be in boxes, where it was like you're guaranteed 1 full art ruler and 1 non-full art ruler back in Lapis Cluster. I think that was a big thing that was in the back of my mind. When with 5 of them, it's like, okay, cool, we'll kind of half it, see what happens with it. But the fact that they're doing 5 is really, really okay with me, because some of these cards are very good, and you definitely want a bunch of them in your deck.
So I'm actually really happy about this, because with this move, they actually went back to the 36 card booster box, right? And so when they transitioned from the 36 booster pack box to the 20 booster pack box, they really adjusted and tightened in on the super rare. It was nowhere near as much as it was before, and so opening back up to a 36 card booster box, like it was almost perfect to introduce a new rarity and have it like maintain what the super rare was in the smaller box, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so like I'm very happy that they ended up doing this. Like you'll still like I think the biggest thing I was concerned with was whether or not a case would still get you a playset, and a case will still get you a playset. So that means that there really isn't too much in terms of like market issues that we should have.
Yeah, that's the piece too, is, you know, what we've seen from Ratios in terms of pre-release kits. And I'll speak to the fact that I have opened up a couple of actual sealed boxes due to some behind the scenes stuff. The ratios have been 5 Marvel Rares per pack, or 5 Marvel Rares per box, and then 18
5 Marvel Rares per
pack. Oh,
jeez.
Oh my gosh. 5 Marvel Rares per box, and then 18 to 19 super rares per box, with 7 full art super rares kind of being the like hit. And the thing is, going into this set, we used to have like 19 or 20 super rares, and now we're at 15 super rares total, like in the set. So they've done this really interesting thing with the Marvels, where it's almost like a pseudo rarity. And so I think they kind of implemented it really, really perfectly, because there's only 5, right? So you don't have to put as many in a box to still simulate the feeling of how rare it is, right? But also at the same time, that's low risk because there's only 5 different ones. Like 5 per box would feel infinitely worse if there were 12 Marvels.
Right.
So the fact that we reduced the number of super rares per pack or per box, we introduced this new rarity, and the only limited types of this new rarity like kind of balance out with the loss of the supers, is like when you crack a box, you hit those 5 Marvels, they still feel very rare because it's 36 packs and only 5 of them have those kind of cards in it. But at the same time, they're not inaccessible. But it's also at the same time, you feel more comfortable with your super rare pulls because we've reduced the number of super rares that there are to get as well. So like a box feels more consistent and like more complete than we've had in these past sets where we had like 19, 20 super rares, because your super rare slots, sure, you only had so many, and there were so many different options to put into that slot pack that you were like, okay, I mean, take it even back to before we went to 20 count boxes, even with DBV, right? We had 19, 20 supers, but even then some DBV boxes were just trash because your super rare slots got taken up by super rares that you didn't want.
Like
right?
anything but Dark Alice.
Right. So going into this set with the reduction of the number of supers that it can be, with this new short print of Marvels, a box itself feels less variable while still being there, but also at the same time, it's variable in such a way that like you still come out of it feeling like you got good pulls if you pull a full box, which I think is the perfect way that they could have introduced this new rarity into the system. I think we were all worried it was going to be like a chase or like 1 or 2 per box, and we're going to feel really bad about it. But I think overall, like, this was the way to bring us back to 36 count boxes. I think more than just like if we just had 19 super rares again. That being said, normals are still a lot of normals. And we still have item cards. I call them item cards, are like the tokens, the energized coins, the life coin cards, like those. Those things still exist. But like as a whole, a box feels like has the weight of what you're doing. Also, yeah, Victor Harris in the chat, buddy. How's it going, man?
Something I really like about this too is that if you're getting a case, like the Deepwood guys and I are splitting a case, the chance that you guys just don't have a playset of each Marvel after getting 6 boxes, 5 each. The odds of it not being like 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and then just like assorted other ones on the side is like super low, which is great, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think that's the one thing to think about is case prices have gone up, but if this is any indication, it's kind of nice with having this new rarity that like you probably can start going back to buying 5 boxes and feeling pretty comfortable about getting your playset, which doesn't seem like a lot when you're just like, oh, only one more box is a case. But like 5 boxes now is probably about the same cost that you were paying for a box of AO or for a box of 20 counts, right? Yeah. Probably about the same price to get 5 boxes of the new versus a full case of the old. So again, that also feels good. So because for people who can't afford that price bump to get a full case, you're still feeling pretty comfortable about a full playset with, 4 or 5 boxes.
Yep.
So in terms of set design, in terms of pack ratios and everything else, I think Marvels have been very, very, very good. And I think that we can all attest to that. It'll be a question of... Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, have you confirmed if you can pull a super and a Marvel from the same pack? Or
no,
is it like
they are... Well, I don't think they can be in the same pack. I think...
Gotcha.
Okay. I was wondering it's the same. It's the same slot, and I don't think. I think since AO3, maybe even before, you haven't been able to get a full art of a super or higher and a normal super in the same pack. Josh, you've probably cracked way more than me. Does that seem familiar to you?
I guarantee I have not cracked more than you have. I'm positive, but yeah, no, I think that is pretty accurate. I haven't pulled the double super rare in what feels like forever.
Yeah.
So makes sense.
So that's Marvels in the sense of like, I think we can all agree that they've executed Marvels very, very well in the terms of pure pack ratio within your box, getting your playset. Like that was really good.
Yeah, in terms of playability, absolutely. In terms of chase, I actually think One of was a very good call.
In terms of the foil, like one foil.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly as well.
You get one full art Marvel in a box. And this is good because I've thought about this a lot, like, and I tried to compare it to like back in the day when we were pulling rulers from boxes, and even from the days when we were pulling secret rares out of cases. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to think, and I honestly believe that this is probably going to be one of the more expensive chase style because the alternate art had a following, but essentially there was always still just the regular full art for all the alternates, right?
There's a certain prestige to this one now because you can only get one per box.
Yeah, this is literally, if you don't want to play with a border, like there is gonna be some supply issues in terms of not even issues. It's good.
It's a hunt. Very good. It's a hunt.
But yeah, the full art Marvel I think is going to be a very expensive card coming out of this set.
Yep, and I
absolutely believe that.
I think that was, we can't speak to like what their intention was with, or like what their justification was for shifting to the new border. But like when we saw the difference between like non-full art and full art, one of the first things that came to my mind was full arts are immediately much more desirable. Like the difference in like feel and look and visual between a non-full art and a full art in this new border is very, very large, and very much more distinct, because there have definitely been sets in Force of Will's history where you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, full art versus foil, like full art versus non-full art, like whatever, it's fine, it looks fine either way. But like with the new four, like it is substantially different looking. And so like what you say with the Marvel rares, like the only way you can get a shiny Marvel is in this one per box kind of style, which is for the shiny, and again, I think that's the niceness of like 4 and 1, because for the non-shiny hunters,
I was actually just about to say
this is very helpful. This is very helpful for them.
Because I'm going in on like I've got 2 boxes, Scott's got 2 boxes, Joey's got 2 boxes. We're gonna have, we'll have enough play sets. We should have a play set of every single Marvel non-full art. And if we want to invest the full arts back into the market, we use that to buy more product. And from there, we just kind of cycle it in, make something happen there. It's a smart business decision if we want to just play function over form. But for anybody who wants to play form over function and have some real shiny cards, we can supply it.
Right.
And we can just put that back into the...
That's the beauty of it, is it's best of both worlds, right? Because there is a hunt for the shiny, right, which in turn bolsters the secondary market. But at the same time, in that hunt for the shine, like, people aren't prevented from being able to get access to Marvels if they don't want to hunt for the shine, right? And so
Right.
I think that again speaks to that pack ratio, very, very important. And I think again, if that is a ratio that will sell boxes moving forward. Like, now that it's known that this is what it's going to be like, I think like you are going to see potentially probably more pre-orders of more boxes moving forward, at least from the player base.
I could see that. I also still really like what they've done this entire cluster of putting the rulers in the boxes, and then more specifically when they got to set 3 and 4, where it's now a rotation between 3 different ones.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly like that,
and that's the big question. That's the big question for next cluster, is rulers are going back into the packs.
I would love to get a store's opinion on that, though.
Sure.
Because from a player's perspective, buying the boxes, right, is good for me. From a store, just to put a box on the display, they now have a ruler that they would have to sell on the side. Buying packs, I don't know. I'd have to get a store's opinion on whether or not they enjoy that. But from my perspective as a player and as an individual seller, I absolutely love that. And I love that there's chase outside of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little box topper, but it's essential to the game. I love it.
Yep. So
Josh,
we do have a question, is what do we think regular Marvels are going to be now then? I think right now we're seeing pre-release prices, right? Because we're seeing people getting their pre-release kits. Josh has vanished from existence and has returned. But I think at the same time, we're also... Jeez Louise, Josh. The camera flicker. Now you're just messing with me, buddy. But I think the thing to see here is, now that we're gonna we've seen the pre-release kit influx, and in the course of COVID, the company announced that like you can sell pre-release kits as if they were boxes, right? Which I think was a smart decision. But what stores, what people, what avenues were people ordering their pre-release kits versus what avenues were they more geared towards ordering boxes? So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how much more product floods itself into the singles market with box openings versus pre-release kits, because typically people know that for the most part pre-release kits have been more juiced than, at least in the US, pre-release kits have been more juiced. So a lot of people who are looking to flood the singles market or are looking to will try to get pre-release kits if at all possible. So the question becomes how much single product, or like how much sealed product is going to hit the market. I think that you're probably going to see your average Marvel rare, and this is like, in my opinion, like a Grand Cross reincarnation is probably, or a Lenneth is probably like more your like average Marvel rare, probably going to sit somewhere between 35 to 40 as a single, and then probably going to sit somewhere between 50 to 60 as a full art, potentially. And then you're going to start hitting like Yggdrasil, who's probably going to be base price 45 to 50, and then you're going to start to see like 60 to 70 for the full arts. That's a guess.
I would be shocked to see the base rare that high.
And that's fair. I haven't done the singles market enough to like that, and that's why I brought you on.
I'm pretty sure 15 makes, like 10 to 15 makes most sense for Lenneth or something.
I'm thinking 15 to 20 on the base rares, but then like I think what we're gonna see is these Marvels are gonna exceed what the super rares were going in DBB. Yeah, I would say you are looking at probably $50 full art marbles.
Okay. Across the board? Across the board?
Especially, I think it's going to be the big one, in my opinion.
So you think cap out cap out price
Schrodinger.
You think cap out price is like 50-55 for like full art? Like cap out price at full art's 50 to 55?
I
don't see people paying more than that in the Game of Force currently. Are they valued more than that? Yes, absolutely. Will anybody buy them? No.
That's the market, right? It was like, sure.
Like, I think DBV pushed the envelope quite a bit in terms of what our community is willing to pay for cards, and specifically Dark Alice. And so, like, that's why I think the $50 is a safe number.
Sure.
Could be wrong.
Sure. So let's talk. Now that we talked beyond pricing, God pack equals $450.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
those God bags are
the box itself only costs $80-$90.
Your Marvels pay for like 75% of your box.
Yeah, and that's just not realistic. You know what I mean? It's just it's unrealistic for that to actually go that way.
Right.
So that's why I don't think so.
That's very fair. Yeah, later.
Maybe, like, because if you look back in the cluster sets, like all of the booster boxes except for this last one, so if you go AO1 and AO2, they're all up around $80 right now, and that when it was released was $50. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like that kind of increase in sealed will then, like, that's when we'll start to see like the chase cards in those sealed products that you can't just go buy anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll get up there.
For sure.
Well, the thing with AO1 and AO2 is that AO1 still has a couple of the needed chase cards for certain decks. I don't know why, but Shoxy is still like a $25 card. And
it's beautiful and it's functional.
Waifu status. Also waifu status. So
waifu tax is very important.
Moving on from the price point, because the market will show us what the market is going to show us, especially after this coming weekend, right? I want to talk about like the actual card design that we've seen about Marvels, because it is all over the map. I think when we were walking into Marvels, the biggest fear that we had going into it was these are going to be 5 bomb cards that are meta, like warping, play it or lose cards that are going to be hard to get, that are, that was the fear, right? And now that we've seen all 5, I don't have that fear, especially, but I will say that there is meta warping power in these cards, but I think that we've seen that they are not the be all end all bombs that we were concerned they were going to be, right?
They're the big things that they're specific to certain play styles, and I think that's been the biggest deal about them. Like, we see, obviously Schrodinger is good for Dark Alice and is good for cheesy OTKs. We see that Grand Cross Reincarnation is really good for Magnage because he has the Strangers in deck, but can be used in any deck just because. As long as you
have Strangers, you have to have Strangers.
Right, exactly. Yep, exactly. But if you generate Strangers with like Tharia or something, it's a Mage Art Sword Art.
Right.
You can pay for Regalia, it's fine. Yggdrasil fits really well. People are always saying like, oh, Yggdrasil's the best card in the set because you can search in Regalia. You only really want it if you're playing a deck that wants to Judgment really early with their Regalia. You want it in Melgus, you want it in Tharia, you want it in Valentinus because you have the ability to search Lover's Lock and play it the next turn because it's quick cast.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think it goes in Arla. I don't think it goes in Rizard. Definitely doesn't go in Gil Lapis or Dark Alice.
In my opinion, what Yggdrasil offers you is the ability to go turn 2 Regalia and leave up your one wheel of interaction for like a lot of different things that usually that turn 2 Regalia play like leaves you open for. Right?
Who needs turn 2 interaction when you flip Melgus on 2?
I'm just telling you.
Come on.
I think to your point is like Yggdrasil by itself is an enabler. Yggdrasil is not just like, oh, I play this card and immediately generate so much advantage just by playing this card that you're hosed, right? Yggdrasil,
very good.
Yggdrasil is a consistency. So, like, again, going to the pieces, right? Grand Cross is a cool gimmick trick. like based on what you get into your hand, or if you're playing Magna, like there is a lot of cool option there, but it's also not just like by itself this is always going to be an amazing card if you play it. Yggdrasil is an enabler for consistency pieces, right? Lenneth is literally only good in Gil Lapis as like for when you flip him, and even then her enter effects are like very situational.
Yeah, no, they're subpar.
Like they're very situational by herself, right? And then
she is
Schrodinger, I think is the like Schrodinger everyone's freaking out about because of the Sigurd Schrodinger stuff, which arguably is good, and I get it, but thankfully has checks and balances within the meta. So we'll have to see exactly, right? So that's a piece which I'll argue is like probably the most directly frightening.
I don't know how these people are getting 4 crystals really easily.
You literally just play her Regalia and you get all 4. Like that's done.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then great, and then Origins of the Seven Lands is fun. Like it is a fun Marvel rare. I know that there are people who are trying to figure out ways to play it. Like, right. Like there's probably a way to build a control deck to make that card happen, right? Which again, very, very flashy, very, very cool. Sometimes will just win you the game, but at the same time, like I'm not gonna look in my hand, see, like I'm not personally, if I was showing up to a tournament, I'm not going to play a card that says, hey, if you play me, half of your side deck is literally unusable outside of having this card in your hand as you walk into a day-long tournament, and you have to survive till turn 7 in order to get me to work. Like, I'm not going to play that, like, at least at a competitive level. I'm going to play it casually on the channel and have a blast, but, like, I'm not...
Witch.
Right. So I think that's what I'm talking about, is, like, the Marvels themselves... Like, I don't think they have a clear identity in terms of, like, where their meta influence is, which I think is good. Like, I think so, because it means that, like...
So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I see a pattern.
Sure, go ahead.
I see a pattern. Okay, I see 5 Marvel rares. I see 1 nut card for each of the 3 rulers, and then I see 2 generics that can be played in any deck. Right.
Right.
That is a nice little trend here that I see. Dark Alice's and Magnas are actual nut cards for those decks.
Yes.
Poor Gil Lapis, Sylvia is actually the nut card for Gil Lapis, and so
real good.
Sylvia's real good. So, so Lenneth, it's actually really interesting. I got a feeling this was like lore and art wise why this is the Marvel here, because it's not the best. It's not the best card in that deck. But then yeah. So, like, going forward, if they actually keep the Marvel rare as the, theoretical best card of the given rulers that they introduce, I could see that going very well.
I would agree.
For the company.
I would agree. Particularly when you piggyback on our last conversation of how many per box.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep the distribution fair, like they have, and keep it chased too. Like I love, the NonFull Art per box, but yeah, I like this. It's like each new ruler got its own super special awesome, and then the whole cluster got 2 generic, interesting cards that can be played in everything.
Grand Cross is.
Did you mute him?
No, he's just whispering.
1 generic good card for the cluster. The other one is Origins. But
hey, look, I think the Origin of the Seven Lands is fun because I don't know. I like filter concept.
Technically,
I like the filter concept.
Technically, wait, hold on. I have to clarify something here. Are you talking about Origins being the boss card for Magna, or are you talking about Grand Cross?
No.
Okay.
Grand Cross.
Because Origins is not generic for literally anyone.
Yeah, it is.
You cannot cast it if you are playing a 7-king ruler.
Why would you play a 7-king ruler, Jeremy? Come on.
Like,
wait, whoa.
Because doesn't it say you have to have revealed those 7 cards? Like,
yeah, I still think that is like
what's the
the only reason I've looked at this is never to play it. It's a mana filter.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's your decision.
Like
okay.
Yeah, it's like
I was very confused for a second. I mean, I think the ruling would have to be
whatever.
I think the ruling would have to be whether or not having the ruler as your ruler in game counts as having it revealed for Origin.
Oh, Josh, I think I got it. So it's 3 bombs, 1 for each of the rulers of the set.
Yes.
1 cluster wide for that's really good for everything before that.
Yeah.
And then 1 card that's really good for the 3 after that, because it's not going to take up the space of the 7 kings guys.
Oh,
but
he's not wrong.
Lenneth from the beginning.
Lenneth support card.
Shut up.
Shut up. It's not a Lenneth card.
Not a Lenneth card. Shut up.
Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Lenneth is 5 colors.
No, the only Lenneth card is Nidhogg. Anyway.
Nidhogg good.
Nidhogg good. I want a Nidhogg.
Oh goodness, I'm losing control.
You lost control already.
I did. But I think to what you're speaking to again is with this being the approach that we're seeing to Marvels, it makes me excited more than it makes me scared for what the future of Marvels could be. I think they've set a precedent with these cards, especially with the pull rate of these cards, that these are going to be things that are sought after in the set, are going to be but attainable in the set, are going to be very, very cool, are going to have an impact at the competitive level, at the not competitive level, are still going to be fun to play, and by themselves, like, aren't okay, GG, game over, right? Which I think is the good piece of them. And I said this before of like AO4, a lot of people have been comparing AO4 to DBV. And
no, because guess what? Y'all have fair warning on this set.
Well, no. Like, in terms of power level is what I'm talking about. And I think if you compare the power level of this set to DBV, the biggest change that I would say is power level as a whole is probably on par, maybe a little lower, maybe a little higher. I'd have to see. However, let me finish my sentence, Mike Rants.
Continue.
But I would say what we've seen from this set by comparison to DBV is the power of this set is not card isolated. It is synergistic and spread out over the set, as opposed to, hi, I'm Dark Alice, I have 9 effects. Like, that kind of, like, DBV.
Hi, I'm Kaguya, you lose.
Right. Like, the power is high, but I can't look at a single card in this cluster, a single card in this set single-handedly and go, cool, this card by itself wins me games. Like, even Schrodinger, like, as the Marvel rare that we're most, like, concerned about because it's the easiest to like OTK someone with, I look at it and go, yeah, but in order to make Schrodinger work, I need the Regalia, I need Rhea, some way to get Sigurd to grave, and I need Sigurd to be uninterrupted to be able to go off. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not play Kaguya win. It's try to do this interesting interaction that is powerful but requires multiple pieces and gives my opponent a chance to react, which I think is really, really good. And I think that they've set a good precedent with the design of this set to give us like that kind of power, as opposed to DBV kind of power.
Well, the new precedent is now your cards that win you the game are normals, like Schrodinger's Cry and Final Stance, which are the only 10 out of 10 cards in the set. But other than that, whatever. Who cares?
I'm not gonna lie. There's so much. Like, I'm the Mother Goose's Cage. Like, I love that card.
I love that card too, man. There's also has anyone? I've played it because we put it on the channel. you guys probably haven't had a chance to play it. Mike, you might get a chance to play it this weekend with the guys from Deepwood when you crack your case. Like, play this set sealed. It's actually a lot of fun.
We might be doing
Jeremy and I, we're doing it, right?
We're doing it this weekend, man. Like, I got 3 boxes. There's 3 boxes over there on the table. Plus,
are we doing like a 6-pack sealed or like a box sealed?
So we have a couple. So here's the thing. You're bringing a case. I have 3 boxes. Total, there's going to be 4 of us hanging out here during the stream, right? So Josh is expected to show up first. We lost Mike Rants. Josh is expected to show up here first, which means the first thing Josh and I are going to do is take half of one of my boxes or Josh's boxes if he wants to crack into his packs first, and we are going to grid draft.
Ooh.
Have you never grid drafted before? That's a ton of fun. So be excited for that. Grid drafting, 2-person grid drafting is a ton of fun. So we're going to grid draft. We're going to do 6-pack sealed. We're going to do 4-pack draft. If we have enough boxes left over for the 4 of us, I would love to do a box, like a deck in a box. Red Zone Rogue has done that many times, and he says it's a ton of fun. So I really want to do that as well. So like, this set is actually a lot of fun to play sealed, and like, this ruler, as generic as it is honestly perfect for playing Force of Will sealed. Like, it's really, really well done. So like, everything about AO4, and I'm seeing it in the chat too, like, the normals are a lot more fun. This set as a whole is a lot more fun. There's a lot of cool stuff to do. These rulers are awesome. Like, if this is the precedent that we're setting for Marvel Rares and everything else, I'm so very loud.
No, it's
because I'm getting so. It's because
get adamant.
It's when I get adamant, right?
It's when you start like expressing emotion, positive emotion.
Yeah, I'll back off when I get. I'll try to lean back
Jeremy,
when I get more hype.
Jeremy, you need to be more NPR, all right? Like,
welcome to the Teachers Lounge. Tonight we're talking to Mike Rants.
I just think AO4 is
hello.
It's a very good. It's a very positive set.
It's a very positive set.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling.
No, but I think, I think that the precedent they're setting here with the Marvels and the overall set design, if this is the stuff that we can expect to see moving forward into next cluster, I mean, the question of next cluster becomes, what does it look like for pull rates for rulers, right? That's Force of Will has always had a what's the next big question, right? So the next big question is, what does the pull rate look for the new rulers?
Speaking of next big questions, Babatunde is asking the hard ones.
Let's see. What is it? Are we salty? Are we not as salty about I Spy taking over? I will refrain from this question.
I will answer very proudly. I Spy is doing a fantastic job. Fantastic job. I love you.
Jeremy, you said you're gonna refrain on it from it. I'm gonna reflect on it.
Oh, okay. Well, once you gain your magic counter, we'll flip into my side, and I can give my piece.
Yeah, I'm gonna invert myself out of here right now.
So, I mean, what's your thoughts, Mike, about I Spy at this point? We've seen a whole cluster of I Spy taking the reins.
Rough beginnings, obviously, because they were still kind of getting into the things. You can't really, when you're having a full company switch over into another company, it's not going to be easy. I've seen tons of things go wrong when it comes to that. But the first set of the cluster was I wasn't a big fan of it when I was cracking it. So the next cluster, I'm like, okay, cool. AO2's got some fun stuff. AO3, I'm like, okay, we're getting into it. And now I'm really excited for tomorrow night, where my locals actually turns out has some pre-release packs available, and we're going to be running about a 6 to 7 man pre-release draft because we got some new players over by my place.
Pro tip: Shadow X and Shadow X. The Moonstone and Pitch Black Moon are a win condition by themselves. Like, just so
you could have just told me Shadow X is a win condition. That's a 9 out of 10 in my book. Come on.
But you don't have. There's not a lot of crystal generation in sealed.
You don't need crystal generation to make that card good.
That's why I'm saying, like, with Pitch Black Moon and a Moonstone, it is its own crystal generation. So you just kill your opponent. So, like, that's fine. But then, like, can't remember. Oh, Lars Lars here in the chat. So
love
Lars can't remember when there was a time to test like 5+ decks that seem all viable as meta candidates: Rezard, Arlo, Magna, Lenneth, Gil, Dark Alice.
Yeah.
And Lars plays Cluster, which I'm very excited. Which I'm very excited
all you gotta
to do.
Is put an altar in all 5 of those decks, and like I think we're New Frontiers.
Yeah. But
Lenneth
like
doesn't have an altar. That's
the worst part.
But like outside of New Frontiers in Cluster, what I'm hearing from Lars is that those decks are all very different, which is what I like to hear. Lars, correct me if I'm wrong there.
I really wish that, like the thing that Brandon Bremont had posted the other day, where I really, really wish that Minnesota was going to be Cluster.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that we want it to be, but the problem is United States has typically always been New Frontiers. We've tried alternative formats, and it's never worked beyond just one tournament. But the other thing is that, like, as much as it would suck to have it's going to be frustrating to deal with the alter meta, it is the last time we are going to have to deal with it, as opposed to, like, 2 years of this, which I think is a different pace. Like, in my opinion, I think that where the game is at right now and the cool cards that we have coming out and what the community is right now for Force of Will, I don't think the presence of Alter is going to keep people away from the tournament, which I think is the good thing. But we're not getting into that. Steven, don't tell me to not talk over other people. This is my podcast. I do it all.
Not talk over other people.
Like, we still don't know anything about Worlds, right?
As of right now, no.
So, like, theoretically, Worlds is supposed to still happen, and it's going to be New Frontiers, right? Because it was last year.
Yeah, it would be New Frontiers, but it would be New Frontiers. It would be New Frontiers with set 1 of the new cluster.
Was it last year?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, you're right. It was New Frontiers. Yeah. They decided to make it New Frontiers with Alter.
It was all 8 sets. It was the very first.
You're correct.
A huge pool, and everyone still hated it. But anyways, if there was a Worlds this year, it would be an Alter. It would be an Alter Worlds.
Potentially, so, doing New Frontiers this way this past year was a new experience. It's typically been like first set of the new block is used, which would have rotation.
I think was like the number one complaint of Worlds players, right? Was just the small pool and the not a lot of timing and prep.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Lots
anyway,
of pieces.
Theoretical Worlds.
Theoretical. So, speaking of theoretical, let's talk about a giveaway. It's not a theoretical giveaway.
It's not theoretical.
It's not theoretical. So here's what we're going to do. Yeah, you're welcome. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to invite the chat to give me your answers here. And so then what I'll do is I will read the chat and put people's names into a drawing when you give me your answer. And then later tonight in this podcast, we'll draw the winner, and then we'll go from there. So your question is, of the 5 Marvel rares, which one is your favorite?
There's a correct answer, right?
No, there's not a correct answer.
What?
It's give me your opinion in the chat. What is your favorite Marvel rare? I will draw I will draw a name. I will draw a name from those, and then we'll get you the contact information to win the stuff.
Nidhogg.
Come on, I can't throw my hat in.
So I'll let that run for a bit, and then we'll go. I might draw the winner after the stream tonight.
Right.
But we will.
Dan Roland. Mimic is an awesome fairy tale.
I'm sorry, that card is actually called Sumo Artichoke, and you need to respect him. So back in the days of when Paul and I played Kaijudo, there is a card in Kaijudo called Sumo Artichoke, which is a shield break, so it's quick cast, would come into play tapped, and your opponent would have to attack it if it was tapped. And so ever since then, anytime there's an effect like that in a game we play, Paul and I are like, Sumo Artichoke! And so we have Mimic, and that is now Sumo Artichoke, and you're welcome. So that's my favorite Marvel rare.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out any Japanese games that don't have vegetables somewhere in them, because we had that. We got Extreme Carrot in Shadowverse. I'm pretty sure I heard somebody talking about something that has. It was one of like the Bushiroad games that I think has another one of those. And Force Will has Fruits of Yggdrasil.
Hooray!
That's a fruit.
Oh no!
Wait, there is the mana transmutation plant.
The vegetation.
The vegetation.
I mean, come on, like all the Leaf Warriors, we can't just call that a salad.
No.
What?
There's no tomato leaf. Come on.
What is a red leaf? Chili
Red
leaf?
leaf. No, it's
a tomato leaf.
Tomato leaf.
So, I think at this point, is there anything else that we think that there needs to be discussed about Marvels? I think we've talked about market impacts, we've talked about pull rates, we've talked about futures.
But about an important card in the cluster. Traveler in Wonderland, which can turn herself into any race.
Leave. Okay. I'm gonna kick my grits. Here we go. I figured out how to do this, and he's now muted, so no one can hear my grits. There we go. Perfect. Oh, it won't let me.
I've seen this.
It won't.
This is an ESPN show. It's called Around the Horn. I love this. Hey,
he's been
points.
He's been eliminated. I do want to talk about, though, if you haven't already seen, we have seen the spoiler for the next cluster, Saga Cluster, which appears to be the Mike. You're not actually muted. I was just messing with you.
Okay, good.
So
I'm surprised he didn't try like swear. He's just like, oh, you're gonna mute me.
You think I could say fuck on camera?
Past the first 1 minute.
Thankfully, we're at the 50-minute mark, so that's our one swear for the night.
Yep, exactly. So, this is not PG-13.
Everybody gets one.
So we've seen Saga Cluster. It appears, according to the artwork, to be going back to the world of Grimm, Re-Earth, specifically going back to the first time the fight against Ragnarok happens. The playmat is clearly Mikage, a dragonoid girl that we have no idea who she is. Everyone wants it to be Sylvia. It's not going to be Sylvia. So sorry for you people ahead of time who want it to be that. Young Welser, some random blonde-haired chick, very clearly Ragnarok, and non-vampire Oborozuki. Going off of typical fashion, these are probably our 6 rulers for the first set. The first set, again, is going to have 5 Marvel rares. We're going back to, I believe, 50 is still 15, either 14 or 15 super rares for the set. Rulers are back in the packs. There is a box topper, and we're back. We're staying at 36 packs per box.
Wait, so the rulers are back in the packs?
Correct.
But the box topper is not a ruler?
Correct. At least according to what we've seen.
Do we know how? So for sure, none of those 6 are starter deck rulers.
We know that there are 6 rulers in the set,
and so we don't know.
They could potentially be starter decks.
We haven't seen anything been released so far about whether or not they're starter decks alongside. We know that in the set there are 6 rulers.
In the set, there are 6 rulers. That's not a starter deck.
Yeah, no, it's not. Saga Cluster starts
I wonder if
that
they're
way.
Going away with starter decks.
I don't know. They did say that their advertisement for Saga Cluster is that this is a great way for new players to get started in Force of Will. Seems like we probably need starter decks for that to be happening.
Yeah, and I mean, like going the opposite way. Like now you've got to like pull a ruler out of a pack. I'm trying to think. That's not the most. Starter.
Well, then again, that's the question of like, what is what does pull rate for super rares look like? Or sorry, pull rate for rulers look like? Is it 1 per box? Is it 2 per box? Old school was 2.
And we do have Marvel rares in the set?
Correct. We have 5 Marvel rares in the set.
Ooh. Hey, Mike, you know what that screws up? The bomb for each ruler theory.
Yeah. That's pretty
5
bad,
does not equal 6. I learned that somewhere.
That is true.
Hold up. But Josh, what if
I've heard there's some new math lately.
There is some new math.
Matt,
Okay.
Steve, I do want to talk about. Hold on, stop with your new math. I'm going to talk to the chat for a minute. So, Matt Seymour, speculation: do you think the Saga rulers are going to be dual color for the first time? I believe this is the first time we see it. We've seen dual color rulers all this cluster. This is not.
I think they're going to be single color.
They're probably going to go back to single color, if anything.
Yeah, this entire cluster was dual color.
If there was a GP this weekend, if there was a GP this weekend, which deck would you play to get the Japan flight? If AO3 set release weekend, there was a set that I would, or a deck that I would play to get the flight in New Frontiers, it'd be Magna Altar.
You saying AO4?
Yeah, like set release weekend. Set release weekend AO4.
Somebody.
I would play Magna Altar personally.
Altar might be the way to go, but like I'm
just gonna.
Lenneth has some power. Lenneth has some power.
Oh, triple color rulers? That seems doubtful. But that's what we know so far for Saga Cluster. I'm excited.
Would be really interesting because I know Magic did it for an entire cluster. They went 3 color specific. I think they did it 3 times or twice. They did it once in the Phyrexian, and then I think Dragons of Takir, or like the whole clans block was also 3 color. So like if Force of Will ever decided to do it, that would actually be really fun to do it for.
I don't think they can do it this cluster though. I've got my doubts simply because Ataractes Memoria is tied to those rulers in terms of flavor. And if they give tricolor rulers Ataractes Memoria, then why the hell are you going to play the old rulers?
Oops.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. I think as a lore junkie, it's really, really cool to see us going back to where we are.
I just want new characters, man.
I understand that. But I mean, like, that's the thing is this playmat already shows us that we have 3 new characters.
True.
Technically, like, because
we were 2.
We know nothing about Oborozuki as a person.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I guess you're right. She's super mysterious.
We literally know that she is Rhea's mom. She's a vampire. She killed Ragnarok and gave up her eyeball. Like, that's literally the only things we know about her. No lines of dialogue, no story interaction, nothing.
Wait, she kills Ragnarok? Spoiler alert! God.
Okay. But like I think this is a good indication, like looking at the playmat, I think this is going to be a cool story to go back to. Like, we get to see Mikage like back when he's a hero, as opposed to like his I'm gonna sit things out, be kind of maybe evil fashion. We get to see Oborozuki and actually learn who the hell she is. We get to see actual Welser not being controlled by the time spinning witch as a kid, which is a completely fleshed out character that we've never really gotten to experience. And then we get Ragnarok, which we've only seen as reincarnated. And then we get the new Dragonoid girl, which I'm all about learning more about the Dragonoids. That's not Kirik, let me punch you in the face a bajillion times. Also be very tsundere towards Shayla. And we get to see this random new blonde chick. That's a new person too. Like, as a lore junkie, this is a very cool direction to take it. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Stephen Holshazer about the lady on Split Heaven and Earth. Listen, Split Chan, her lore is way too deep for us to comprehend. It goes beyond your understanding.
Never learned about Split Chan. Sounds like Mikage's kind of woman. I mean, there's a reason why they were together, apparently. I remember there being some kind of super ruler where you put multiple together. Was way before I started playing through, and I don't really know much about it. Super ruler? We've never really had anything like that.
Super ruler? You're probably talking about Val 2.
Yeah, that's the closest. But like colossal ruler, where you flip it twice. 6 dual colors up front, and then more rulers releases over. That's the question that I have with Saga Cluster.
Oh, I think you're talking about the colossal ruler, because it looks like 2 of them are put together like that. And
that's Travis. Travis, the lore is primarily on the Force of Will website. That's where the easiest way to go look at it.
Yeah, but then there's also been a lot of people that have like really dove into like all the flavor text on all the cards, and like have really put together more than just what the official story is put out to.
For sure. It'd be cool to enjoy 6 cool dual colors up front, and then 4 more rulers releases over the cluster to fill the dual holes. So like that to me does bring up a very interesting question that will kind of end it here for tonight with Saga. Is like we're entering a new cluster, and this is again, this is like this is a very interesting cluster because this is an I Spy developed cluster that was started to be developed when FAO was starting its upswing again, and not in the immediate retrying to save, restructure the company mode, which AO1, AO2, AO3, like the early AO cluster was when when the company was still working on turning itself around because of the company change. This is the new cluster when they're not in the freshness of changing companies, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see the approach for this cluster, because New Valhalla cluster, let's go back to Rhea cluster. Rhea cluster was, here's these new rulers in the starter decks. We're going to revisit and revamp these new rulers in the starter decks and also give you new rulers throughout the cluster. Then we had We're not talking about how it was implemented. We're talking about the mindset.
We can absolutely talk about that though.
Because, we will.
I would say this Regalia, like this whole thing they did with the Regalia is definitely way better than their first attempt.
Right. And then we had New Valhalla cluster, which was, we have 10 rulers at the start. Those are the 10 rulers for the whole cluster, and we will see continuing support throughout the cluster unless your name is Fushi. And then we got AO cluster, which was new rulers throughout the cluster. And now we are going into, but 3 at a time. And now we're getting into this new cluster, Saga cluster, and we have 6 rulers at the start.
So 6 rulers at the start kind of reminds me of Lapis. We had the 5 starter rulers and 5 in set 1.
Yep.
Right? And
Lapis?
then they...
yes, we had 10. Yeah. Curse of the Frozen Casket, yes, we had 10. And then we kept getting new rulers throughout.
Surprisingly, I'm going to actually backtrack you on that, Josh, because I'm going to say that this actually reminds me a little more of like a weird mix between, like, partially Rhea cluster because it's got the 5 starters, and then there was the extra starter in the middle that kind of made it 6, but it's probably not the same. I think this is a little bit closer to the way that SKL was.
Okay.
Because we got, obviously 1 ruler of each color, and then 3 dual color ones, and then 2 of them had the same color because it was Arla and Faria, and then Machina was Void. So it's like there's no real precedent at that point. It was more lore driven. I think we might see that happen again.
Yeah, a lore driven ruler base, which makes sense because if you're considering color pie, right? Like Mikage and Obarozuki are probably base black in some way because of their origins. So like that's
Obarozuki might not be, but yeah.
Right. But like again, I think what you're talking about is like more lore driven ruler presence rather than cluster defining ruler presence.
Or color balance, the way that we've seen.
Right. Or like color balance. So that'll be interesting.
Like, I'm with you. I'm with you on this Alice thing. What would you guys think if they went back to in answer to our question, right? What if the starter decks are just cards from the set and they're reprints and they're their own standalone thing?
Probably fine, honestly.
What would you think if we went back to that? Because that's what Alice Cluster was, and then since Alice Cluster, all starter deck cards have been unique.
I think I'd probably be more fine with that, to be perfectly honest. Having it be starter decks that are less unique than anything.
The past 2 sets.
Say what you're saying again.
I wouldn't buy them.
I think you would not be the target audience of said deck.
No, and that's as long as they stick to the audience. I think one of the things that would really anger me is if they ever went to where starter decks had like 2 or 3 unique cards in them.
Oh, sure.
That would absolutely, like, if you give me the same ruler I'm pulling in set 1, but I have to buy the starter deck for 3 unique cards, I will not be happy. So
sure, and I don't think Forcible's ever really done that. It's either been like full unique with some cards from the starter as in the set. Like Kirik had like food supply, like there were like a couple of ones that were in set 1 of Rhea Cluster, but for the most part it was like 80% unique. and then going into like the set itself was unique, so a bigger card pool technically for set 1. I don't think there's ever really been a time. I guess I could say that, and like the Alice cluster starter decks were legitimately just like all cards that were in the set. If I remember correctly, like you could just buy the starter. It's a balance for sure. And it'll be interesting to see what. Again, this is a fresh cluster that has been designed not as a restructuring of a company was happening. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think they're setting themselves up on the right foot with the way that we've seen set design and cluster design from Alice Origins. So like if that's an indication of like what we might be seeing moving forward, like I have hope. But then again, also anytime I have hope, the community calls me a shill. So take that with a grain of salt.
So hot take on this one real quick. Would you push the release of the new cluster until the pandemic is over?
No.
No?
Nope.
I would.
What other card game is doing that? What other card game is pushing set releases?
What other store is open? Like I feel like
that's not a question. What other card game is pushing back releases due to the pandemic?
I'm pretty sure
Magic isn't, Yu-Gi-Oh isn't, Pokemon isn't. They are continuing to release even if stores aren't open.
Catching a lot of flack because what they're doing is they're like not supporting their stores until it comes release time, and then they're like, oh yeah, let's have pre-releases at your store.
Sure, yeah.
Like after that, they're just like, no, it's unsafe to be together.
Correct. And so Magic isn't pushing their set releases, but they're handling set releases in a manipulative, self-benefiting way instead of store way, right? Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, FAO. I can't speak to Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. FAO has been doing set releases in a way that I think benefits. It is a revenue stream possibility for stores in the sense of being able to sell pre-release kits, in the sense of still sending out monthly promos when you're able to do stuff, in the sense of like encouraging that way. So I think pushing...
I don't know how much work that they're doing in building actual stores at this point, right? So like since the pandemic, like I know that they released the new trial decks and all that stuff. I just don't know how much stores are actually able to really kind of capitalize on this new push that we're making, right? And like what this new set could offer, you know.
That's
like
fair.
The company's done a lot of good things, right? But you know,
that's the biggest piece. I agree with you that's the biggest piece is like how much can stores capitalize on it, and also how much of a detriment to a store is it if they can't capitalize on it.
Yeah,
that's the biggest question, right? Because it might not actually be a bad thing if the store can't capitalize on it right now, because the natural growth of it is working enough so that when things go back to a pseudo amount of normal, the store will be able to capitalize on it then. But we'll have to see. The world is so unknown, right?
After the pandemic, I wonder how many people are going to be running to their stores and just be like, "Forza Will." They're going to be like, "Whoa!" But I'm a
shill.
Hey. There's people doing that near me in the middle of the pandemic, so
love it.
Tell you what, man.
Love it.
I think that hits everything I wanted to talk about tonight. This has been a good conversation, guys. And also chat. This has been so awesome to see people in the chat. So what we will do is I will look at the people who I will do a drawing. I'll look at all the entries. I will then send you a private message on YouTube if you are the winner, and we will get in contact with you to have your promos and stuff shipped to you, thanks to CCG Prime for sponsoring that. For now, though, for tonight, that is going to be it for us. If you enjoyed what we did here tonight and you want to, again, consider supporting what we do, the easiest way is to click that subscribe button and be here every week. We always appreciate just your presence and being here. However, if you feel like supporting us financially, easiest way to do that is to click that join button down below. I keep reminding Josh Patton to turn off his Patreon and join as a member. He continuously forgets. But
what?
I mean, it's the middle of the month, Josh. You gotta get on this. But again,
can't tell you twice.
That's why you cancel your Patreon and you do this one anyway. But But that's the easiest way to support us. But always, as always, your presence and just being here is super appreciated. Be sure to tune in. Just to let you know, for this week on Wednesday, we have another deck challenge between me and Paul. This one's a Machina versus Valentina deck challenge. Very, very fun. The rules for that one was that Machina cannot win until it casts Gear Golem twice and has to cast Gear Golem as fast as possible, meaning if it has the will to cast it, it must cast Gear Golem. And Valentina's rules were that it cannot win until it has cast Charm of the Princess and Forbidden Summoning at least once. And we banned a couple other cards around with it. Tons of fun. It was a super fun match to play. So tune in this Wednesday to get that. And then this weekend will be the birthday stream because it is my birthday this weekend. So we are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be streaming pretty much most of the day on Saturday, and we hope you guys tune in for that. Lots of sealed stuff, New Frontiers, Conqueror, all kinds of good stuff. And we'll go from there. So that is it for us tonight. Again, as always, thank you guys so much for being here. And I have been joined by myself, Mike Grants.
Hello.
And Pack Kraken Josh Patton.
Crack packing.
And we'll see you all next time. So until then, class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.